Today we're going to take a good painting and try to make it even better. Here's the painting. I see two places where I would make some improvements, small tweaks. One is with the drawing and the other is with the pattern of light and shadow. First, let's talk about drawing. To learn about two-point perspective, I'm going to use this white block. I've added a black line along two of the top edges to help us see what happens in perspective. I'm also holding the block, so this corner is closest to you. And this corner over here is farther back, and this corner over there is farther back. And you'll notice that the length of this compared to the length of the back corner this appears larger and this appears smaller. And that is a convention in drawing where things that are farther away appear smaller. They get smaller as they go back in space and they get higher up on the picture plane. So, for example, this touchdown point, that's where it touches the ground, is here on the picture plane, but the touchdown point for the back corner is a little higher up. Can you see it? All right. Now, the next really important thing that you have to find to draw is what's called the eye level. And you'll notice that when I take this block and I put it, I'll hold it in my left hand, I'm a little better there, put it at my eye level, you can see that this side and this side, they make a straight line. And this line called the eye level is really important because way out to that side, way out to that side are something called vanishing points. But we'll come back to that. Let's just notice what happens to the shape of these two pieces when I go above the eye level. Do you see that now it looks more like an up arrow? And when I go further up, it's even more dramatically an up arrow. As I come down, it flattens, flattens, and flattens until it's a straight line here. What happens when I go below eye level? Well, now it is a down arrow. You can see that it's slightly pointing down. And these two lines, I'm holding it straight here. It looks like I'm tilting it. I'm holding it straight and they become more pronounced as you move below eye level. And so if you were drawing this, what you would do is this line heads out toward the vanishing point that we mentioned earlier, and this line heads out toward it as well. And they're converging, so they're not exactly parallel. That's the first problem that when you first start to draw, you try to make everything parallel and it just doesn't look right. It's because they're converging as they go into space. And the same thing's happening on this side over here. So that's the rule of thumb that you use when drawing, is that you find the eye level and you find where things are converging out to the left and to the right. And you can tell it's eye level because things above it will be converging down and things below it will be converging up. Let's look at the reference photo. This photo was taken by Cindy McEnery, a professional photographer in North Carolina, who generously allowed us to use this reference. So, where is eye level on this? I see on the quilt, both the top and the bottom of the quilt are angling down toward the right. So I know that's above eye level. I look at the doors and window on the right plane of the barn, and I see the tops of those are angling down, so I still need to go down a little bit further. And if I go all the way to the base of the barn, I do see that the ground, where it meets the ground, angles up to the right. Aha! So eye level has to be above that, but below the tops of the doors. There's a bar of wood across two of the doors, and they fairly low down. They appear to be level to me, so I'm going to say that's where eye level is. And everything that's above that is either angling, if it's to the left of that corner, it's angling off to the eye level over on that side, and if it's on the right of that close corner, it's angling off to eye level on the other side. Now, let's look at the painting that was submitted. I see in this that quite a few things appear to be drawn level. The top of the barn, one of the folds appears level, and then the bottom edge of that metal roof appears to be a straight line, level line. Where the base of the barn starts turning into a roof, I don't know how to describe that, but it appears to be a level line. We do have some things that are angling down. The top of the doors angle down, just like in the reference, that's good. The two windows on either side of the close corner are angling down, that's good. What is the giveaway though, is one of the panels of the tin roof. The back is larger. That line that represents the back of that section is bigger than the front. And we've just said that things are converging away in the distance and they get smaller. They get smaller at the back. So that's the one that made me think that there was something wrong with the drawing. When I looked at the quilt, I also noticed that the angle of the top quilt is more level than the bottom of the quilt. And that, we just said, was the opposite of what happens. The further away we get from eye level, the more extreme the angle becomes. So how would I draw it? So looking back at the reference photo, I see that the top of the barn is much more dramatically sloping away. So I'd put that in, I'd start converging all those lines toward the vanishing point. Same thing on the right. It would look something like this. Now let's talk about the pattern of light and shadow. When the light is strong, it's very easy to see what things belong in the light and what things are part of the shadow. But when light is diffused, like it is in this reference photo, it becomes harder to tell what part is in light and what part isn't. The differences are not as dramatic. It's easier to go astray. Looking at the painting one more time, I see that the quilt is very bright, as if it were in direct sun. But if we look at where the sun is falling on this barn, that side of the barn is in shadow. So we're going to have to emphasize the difference between light and shadow and make sure that this quilt design ends up as part of the shadow. I would also make the shadow behind the barn stronger. I notice a compositional element in the reference photo, that foreground shape of wildness there. I don't know what you call it. Plants. There's a shape of plants that make like a triangle shape, and it has a dark shadow and it points toward the barn. That's a good compositional element to include and to make sure it ends up in your painting. Even though the reference photo did not have any sky, the artist has put in some sky, which is a nice touch. I always like sky. What I would also add is a mountain behind those trees. It adds one more plane of recession. It helps build the space. The changes I made to this painting were, I found the eye level. I made the lines of the barn converge to the vanishing point, which is located on the eye level. I strengthened the light and shadow pattern. I made the lit side of the barn more light and yellow, and the shadow side with a cast shadow, much darker. I made sure that the quilt was part of the shadow shape. I emphasized a dark shadow shape in the foreground vegetation, which points you toward the barn and the center of interest. I added a mountain in the back to create more space as it recedes.